9 a.m. local time. The Arabian Sea, transitioning into the Gulf of Oman. On the deck of the USS Abraham Lincoln, a rotation cycle is underway for the F-35 stealth fighters that have been patrolling the Strait of Hormuz. One pair of pilots, exhausted from a long sortie over the strait, brings their aircraft into the recovery pattern, drops their tail hooks, and traps on the deck. Almost the moment they shut down, the next pair is rolling forward. Fresh aircraft, fresh crews, fully fueled and armed. The catapults fire and the new F-35s shoot off the bow, climbing away from the carrier and turning toward the strait to relieve the previous patrol. The main mission over the Strait of Hormuz right now belongs to a different aircraft entirely, the A-10 Thunderbolt II, better known as the Warthog. The A-10 is the slow, low-flying ground attack jet that nobody loves until they need it. And right now, the Navy needs it. The Warthog is patrolling the strait and the small Iranian-held islands where IRGC forces store their weapons, watching for any boat, fishing vessel, fast attack craft, or anything in between that could be carrying another mine. The A-10 flies low and slow, exactly the kind of altitude where a mine-laying boat would be most visible. Its job is to make sure not a single additional mine gets dropped into the strait under the cover of fishing traffic. If the Warthog spots a suspicious boat doing something it should not be doing, the boat gets destroyed. Simple as that. The F-35s are not down there with the A-10. The stealth fighters fly high above in a different role entirely. Their mission is to protect the Warthog from the one Iranian threat that could actually kill it from the air. The F-14 Tomcat. The F-14 is the most capable interceptor Iran has. The Tomcat first flew in 1970 and entered service with the US Navy in 1972. Iran bought 79 of them from the United States in the 1970s before the Islamic Revolution and is now the only country in the world still flying the type. It is a two-seat, twin-engine variable geometry wing fighter built by Grumman, capable of speeds over Mach 2.3 more than 1,500 miles per hour. It is armed with long-range air-to-air missiles, medium-range missiles, short-range sidewinders, and an internal 20mm Vulcan cannon. Its powerful AWG-9 radar can track multiple targets at long range. For decades, the F-14 was considered one of the deadliest air superiority fighters in the world, and the Iranians use what remains of their fleet to defend the airspace over Thran, and to intercept any American aircraft that ventures too close to Iranian airspace. For an A-10 Warthog, flying low and slow over the Strait of Hormuz, an Iranian F-14 coming in fast with missiles is exactly the kind of threat that ends careers. The Lincoln is currently positioned around 450 nautical miles from the Strait of Hormuz. All F-35 patrols rotate through the carrier. Once an F-35 reaches its station over the strait, it can stay airborne on internal fuel for roughly 2 hours before reaching bingo state and having to head back to the ship. To avoid the constant back and forth, a KC-135 Stratotanker is kept airborne at all times, launched from the US base at Eluded in Qatar. The tanker holds an orbit south of the strait and refuels the F-35s in mid-air every time they need to top off. With aerial refueling, the patrolling fighters can stay on station for 4 to 6 hours before they finally rotate out and head back to the Lincoln. The F-35s fly high, very high. They cruise at altitudes above 40,000 feet using their stealth profile and their advanced sensors to watch the sky in every direction. To Iranian radar, they are functionally invisible. Too small a return to lock onto. Too quiet, electronically to triangulate. But the F-35's own radar, the APG-81A ESA, picks up Iranian aircraft from extreme range the moment they leave their bases. Every Iranian fighter that takes off anywhere near the strait is on the F-35 screen within seconds. The Tomcats cannot hide. That morning, 2 Iranian F-14 lifted off from a base on the Iranian coast and turned south, heading for the Strait of Hormuz. Their target was clear from the moment they were airborne, the American A-10 Warthog patrolling low over the water. To the Iranian pilots, the Warthog looked like an easy kill. On paper, it should have been. The F-14 cruises are over Mach 2. The A-10 cannot exceed about 440 miles per hour, even at full throttle. The Tomcat's Phoenix and Sparrow equivalent missiles can engage targets from over 100 kilometers away. The A-10's only air-to-air weapons are short-range Sidewinder missiles and its 30mm cannon, which is designed to kill tanks, not fighters. In a straight engagement between an F-14 and an A-10, the Warthog has no chance. It cannot outrun the Tomcat. It cannot outclim it. It cannot match the F-14's missile range. The Iranian pilots knew this, and they pushed in confidently, locking up the Warthog on radar from beyond visual range and preparing to fire. What they did not know was that the F-35 had been tracking them since the moment they took off. High above the strait at 40,000 feet, one of the patrolling F-35s had picked up the two Iranian fighters on its APG-81 radar from over 150 kilometers away. The pilot watched them climb out of their base, turn south and accelerate toward the Warthog. Every second, the data on his screen got cleaner. Speed, heading, altitude, weapons configuration. The F-35 turned to intercept, descending slightly to position himself above and behind the Iranian formation. The Tomcats had no idea he was there. Their radars were locked forward on the A-10. The F-35's stealth profile gave back no return. As far as the Iranian pilots could see, they were alone in the sky with their target. The F-35 closed the distance silently. At around 60 kilometers, well inside missile range and well outside any chance the Iranians had of detecting him, the pilot opened his internal weapons bay. The bay doors swung open just long enough for two AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles to drop free. The doors snapped shut. The missiles ignited and accelerated to over Mach 4, climbing on their initial boost phase before tipping over and going active on their own seekers. Each missile had a target locked. Each missile knew exactly where its Tomcat was. The first warning the Iranian pilots got was the chirp of their radar warning receivers as the AMRAAMs went active in terminal homing. The moment the missile's own radar took over and locked the target. By then, it was already too late. The Tomcat is fast, but no fighter can outrun a missile that is already inside its own engagement envelope and closing at 4 times the speed of sound. The lead Iranian pilot threw his Tomcat into a hard brake turn, dumping chaff and flares trying to defeat the lock with maneuvers that had worked against missiles in the 1980s. The AMRAAM was not built in the 1980s. It tracked through the chaff, corrected for the maneuver, and slammed into the F-14 just behind the cockpit. The aircraft came apart in a fireball that scattered burning debris across the sky. The second Tomcat tried to run. The pilot pushed his throttles forward, swept his wings back into high-speed configuration, and dove for the deck, trying to break the lock by getting low and fast. The second AMRAAM followed him down, accelerated and caught him before he could make it to 1,000 feet. The hit was clean. The F-14 disintegrated. Both Iranian fighters were gone in less than 15 seconds. Neither one had ever seen the aircraft that destroyed them. Down on the water, the A-10 pilot continued his patrol over the Strait of Hormuz. Never having known the engagement was happening above him, the F-35 pulled up, climbed back to altitude, and turned to rejoin his patrol orbit. Task successfully completed.